Hey guys, we are back with another video. Dave from Timber Time Outdoors. Are you guys itching to go ice fishing? I know I am. In this video, we're going to talk about some gear, particularly ice rods, ice reels, and some other great stuff. So stay with us. All right, guys, it is December 26th, the day after Christmas, 2023. The temperature right now is 50 degrees. There's no ice in my area, no ice within 2 hours of me. And so I wanted to do a video about some ice gear. And I think I'm going to pass on some information to you that most people don't talk about. It's not a sales pitch per se. It's more about some finer details that this particular rod company does. So that's the first thing we're going to cover is we're going to talk about Della rods and what they do different and why I really like them. I'm going to talk a little bit about my second favorite company, which is Elliot Rods. And I do have some of those, and I'm going to talk about what they do really well that nobody else does. Then we're going to talk about a couple of reels that I like, Okuma and Shimano, and how to apply those to your arsenal. And then lastly, we're going to talk just briefly about dead sticks. So let's get after it. Okay, Della rods. Let's talk about them. Who are they? What do they do different? Why do I love them? So Della Rods, a custom rod maker in Elk River, Minnesota. Their rods are available at some bait shops, a few bigger retailers around town, but I always go directly to them. And the reason I do that is their customer service is second to none. I'll give you a quick example of, what they'll do for you. On the ice, you can break stuff, right? It's a harsh environment. I've broken rods. I think you've probably broken rods. And, some rods come with a warranty and so forth. But what Della will do is they will recycle what they can from your broken rod. So, don't take that rod and throw it away. Get a hold of those guys and they'll recycle some of the parts and give you a heck of a deal on a new rod. So that's the first thing I like about them. They're easy to get a hold of and their customer service is amazing. And they're right here locally in the Twin Cities metro area. Elk River is on the northwest side of town. So that's the first thing I love about it is their customer service. They're like any custom rod company. They'll, do certain lengths for you. They've got the full gamut of, rods from panfish all the way up to, if you're chasing great big, lake trout, walleyes, perch, crappies, you name it. They've got it all. Both fiberglass and graphite. So that really doesn't make them different because, any custom rod company is going to do that. But what they do different is two things, okay? The first one is I want to talk about their handle. And you can probably tell just by looking at it that it's different. Most rod companies, they have, something like that. A split handle, it's a Tennessee, it's cork, skinny. These guys do it different. And they do a great big, it's a little strange looking actually at first. But I have to tell you why I love it. So the first thing is, I'm getting up there in age and I got a little arthritis going in my hand and this bigger handle is just amazing. It fits in your hand. It gives you a nice grip on it. So I like how big it is. It's a top quality cork and they put this seat in here for you. So if you've ever, had to assemble one of these things and you're trying to get the thing lined up and you're taping it and you're looking down the barrel, it's super easy to get the thing crooked and now all of a sudden your rod eyes don't line up with the line. They put the rod location in there for you. And then they have these grooves, okay? And these grooves are for these bands, right? So you just slide the bands down, they snap on here. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems like after about a year, that tape starts to loosen up. You got to redo your tape. If you're using these bands with tape, you'll never have that issue. So that's the main reason I love this handle is it's ergonomic and you can get the thing located on here every single time in the exact same place. And then these bands, they hold it in place. It doesn't squeak. It doesn't come loose. So just an excellent system from a handle perspective. So that's, one thing I like about them. And the second thing I like is this high-vis tip. You know, it's just a simple thing, but a lot of companies, they don't have anything. It's just all black. So you're sitting in your shack, the sun goes down when the fish bite, right? It's usually dark or dusk. And, you know, when you got old eyes like mine, you can't see the rod tip. And sometimes that bite is super subtle, and that just really helps to be able to see the rod tip. So I know there's simple things. Everything else they do, you know, is the same, you know, pretty much as any high-end rod company. You know, they just use top quality components. They're very sensitive. You can always feel the bite. They do, again, fiberglass and graphite, depending on what you're looking for. So that's Della Bay. This one right here is my favorite walleye rod of all time. This one is the 15 for 2. I'll just go through a couple of them for you. Let's see what else do we have here. This one's the tip dip. So this is a fiberglass rod. Oops, I had that backwards. I do. Tip dip, fiberglass rod. This one is a dead stick. And you can use it, you know, for panfish as well. But I primarily use it for a dead stick. What do we got here? Oh, this is the pan sizzler. So essentially this is just a smaller, shorter version of their fiberglass version. So you got the tip dip and you got your pan sizzler. Both are amazing. That's another 15 for 2. I got 2 of those because I love it. I have another pan sizzler. I guess I didn't bring them all down here, but they have an OG. They have, let's see, I can't think of all the other names. But anyway, I'll locate their website on here, and so you guys can go into the description. And if you want to check out Della Bay rods, they're amazing. You won't be disappointed. Go check them out. All right, in the intro, I talked about Della Bay, and I also talked about Elliot rods. And by the way, guys, I'm not associated with any of these companies. You know, I paid for this stuff with my own money. I'm just passing along information that I think you guys might appreciate. It's something that I've learned the hard way, so you guys can learn quickly. So anyway, let's talk about Elliot. So Elliot's another high-end rod company. I don't think they do any custom stuff, but they're just, you know, what are they, $130, $125 rods. You know, so they're in that upper echelon of custom rod pricing. But here's what Elliot does different. A couple things, you know, they have a different kind of cork. I forget what they call it, sin cork or something like that. It's nice. I do like it. I'm actually not a huge fan of the split handle. And the reason I don't like split handles is they're hard to get into the rod case. You know, you got this extra distance back here, and they always just, you're farting around with it. I don't know. They go in rod holders weird. So I personally am not a fan. I think they look cool, but I don't like split handle. But anyway, they got a decent cork. But here's what Elliot does different than anybody else. Their rods are long. Not all of them, but they offer, I think, 3 rods that are either 42 or 44 inches. And you might say, why the heck would you want a rod that long for ice fishing? You can't use these indoors because you're going to either hit the wall or you're going to hit the roof, you know, depending on whether you're in a hub, a flip over, or a permanent. A 42 or 40, you know, 44-inch rod is going to be difficult inside. But where these guys really excel is when you are outside. And so you can stand up, that rod tip's going to get right down to the hole. You can set the hook a lot easier than you can on these short rods. And so that's the one thing I do like about Elliot is they offer that really long, long rod. You know, not all my rods are 40-some inches. Most of them are in that sweet spot between 32 and 36. You know, 34 and 35 inches is kind of that breaking point, depending on how tall you are, whether you're going to use them outside or inside. But yeah, Elliot and their long rods, outstanding. So, you know, in my rod cases, I have Della Bay and I have Elliot, and that is it. All right, moving on from rods to reels. Just going to talk briefly about the ones that I like. There's lots of choices out there, almost overwhelming. I would say this to you guys, you know, there's only one in this group that I'm going to talk about that's different, and there's a reason why you might want to, you know, go with them for the difference that they have. I don't know if they have a patent on it. I'm not sure why others don't offer this feature because it's really good for certain situations. But just make sure that you don't go cheap here, guys. Get something that's in that, you know, $60, $70 range. It's going to have a nice drag. It's going to handle the cold weather a lot better. So save yourself some money and just, you know, go a little higher with your price point. But I want to talk about Shimano. So Shimano is the one that I like for jigging. So all my jigging rods have Shimanos on them, and they're either a 500 or a 1000. And why do I do it different? Why don't I just pick one size? Well, the 1000 works a lot better outside. You get less line twist. It's just because that diameter there is a little bit bigger. And so, I like to use both. On my longer rods, these outside Elliots, I put the 1000s on there. And so that's Shimano. I'm just a fan. This Shimano makes every price point under the sun. This happens to be the Sahara. That's just the price point that I like. I think it's good value. So that's Shimano. Over here I have Okuma. And I'm going to do a quick unboxing. This is the Okuma CBF 500. I also have the 1000, which is right here. So, nothing really all that different about the packaging in particular. But here is why I like Okuma. So this is the Okuma 500, so a little bit smaller. Is this feature right here. Okay, that's called a bait feeder. And I don't have any line on this one, but essentially what happens here when you flip this switch is that it'll free spool. And so on a dead stick, this is critical. You get your dead stick all set up, and if you forget to loosen the drag or you forget to open the bail, your rod's going down the hole as soon as you get a bite. Just happened to me. It's happened to me twice, actually. You get busy, you forget to do something, and there goes your rod. And as I mentioned, these are not cheap. So, again, you do have to remember to flip that switch. But if you flip that switch, you're going to have a free spool here. You guys can hear that. And it's just going to save you. The fish can't feel it. It's going to take line just like a tip up. Essentially, that's how you're using these dead sticks. It's like a tip up. And then when you pick it up and you start reeling, it'll click into gear. You can set the hook, away you go. So that's why I like the Okumas. I think they have a couple different versions of this. I think these on Amazon are like, well, right now they were like maybe under $50. I can't remember. But that's kind of the price point for the Okumas is $40, $50. They have like a gold version and this black version. I think this was the saltwater one. I just like the color. To be honest, the price point wasn't that different. All right, lastly, let's talk about dead sticks. Now, I could probably do a 20-minute video on dead sticks and all the finer details. This video is just going to cover some kind of high-level stuff. I mentioned it already. If you're going to do a dead stick, I highly recommend the bait feeder feature. Only Okuma has it. So get this as your reel. But what do you need in the rod? Okay, so this is overwhelming too, right? You go search dead sticks and everybody sells one. What are they? What makes them different? Well, I'll be totally honest with you. Any rod can be a dead stick, right? All it means is you're not using a bobber. Your bait is hanging down the hole and you're not really jigging it. That's all a dead stick means. Now, what you're trying to do there is you're trying to make it so the fish can basically hook themselves or take that bait like a tip up and not feel it. And so most dead sticks, in fact, I think all dead sticks are fiberglass. And the reason that they're fiberglass is fiberglass tends to be a little more bouncy, a little more tip flex. Graphite, you see fast action, extra fast action. That's going to just be stiffer. So you can, kind of feel the bite when you're jigging. But you can use a graphite rod as a dead stick, and in fact, it works just fine if you have a bait feeder, because when the fish grabs on, it's going to, just start taking line, and they're not going to feel that rod tip. So, if you're on a budget and you don't want to mess with fiberglass, you just want to have a couple of nice sensitive graphite rods, just make sure you pair it up with a bait feeder, and you can use that graphite. Now, if you want to have a dedicated system for your dead stick like I do, I actually have 3. Go fiberglass just because it's going to give you that extra flex. So this one happens to be the Elliot dead stick. It's a 34. I'm going to talk about length in just a minute, but you can see how flexible that is. It also has a high-vis green tip, 34-inch. Here's the Della Bay tip dip, which is their dead stick, fiberglass. High-vis tip, and again, super flexible. If the fish, bites it, even a crappie's not going to be able to feel that. This one's 36. And I mentioned earlier the pan sizzler. So the pan sizzler is just a shorter version of this, and I have one of those as a dead stick at a 32. So why do I have a 32, a 34, and a 36? Well, if I'm inside in my little flip over, I don't have a lot of room, so I need a 32. I might be able to get by with my 34 in there. but my 36 is dedicated to outside. And so I've got the first strike flags. I'll kind of put a picture of those in here. The first strike flags set up really nice on these. This is outside, and so my 36 is a dedicated outside stick. The 34 is kind of flexible. I can use it right next to me, whether I'm inside or outside. And I don't have to screw around with my jigging rods versus my dead sticks. They're just dedicated. And so that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. Again, I mentioned that 34-inch is kind of the line between inside and outside, just so you're not hitting the roof, hitting the side of your shack. So hopefully you learned a few things there about dead sticks. And again, this is the key. Not necessarily the rod or the brand. Just make sure it's flexible. The bait feeder. Get yourself a bait feeder. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Della Bay rods, Elliot rods, Okuma Bait Feeder, Shimano, reels, dead sticks. Forecast is for more mild temperatures, so I don't think we're going to have ice until into January, at least in this area. It might be way into January. So I can't believe I'm saying this, but pray for some cold weather. Let's get some ice. Let's end this video. Like, subscribe, send it to your friends, and remember, everybody, keep it in the timber. Bye-bye.